Alright, we are ready. Welcome to the Boulder Arts Commission meeting. It is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. And I will call Carol Cardoso,
Yes.
Maria Cole, present, Jeffrey Cash, you online,
Present but muted.
Bill Katzenberger, there, Caroline Kurt,
Here.
Patty Benet, yeah, and Yolette is not here. I will now hand the meeting over to the clerk for procedural items.
Great, thank you. We'll open the meeting. A bang. And with the land acknowledgements. The city of Boulder acknowledges the city is on the ancestral homelands and unceded territory of indigenous peoples who have traversed, lived in, and stewarded lands in the Boulder Valley since time immemorial. Those indigenous nations include the Apache, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Comanche, Pawnee, Shoshone, Sioux, and Ute. The city of Boulder recognizes that those now living and working on these ancestral lands have a responsibility to acknowledge and address the past and must work to build a more just future. And with that, I'd like to approve the agenda for this evening. If anybody would like to make a motion. I saw Jeffrey.
I will make a motion.
A second. All in favor? Approved. And any motion to approve the June 2025 meeting minutes? Those are part of the package.
Sure, I can put.
You got it first, second. Second from Jeffrey, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Public participation, let's start with online. Anybody online?
If anyone online who would like to join public participation, please raise your hand. Do not see over here.
Okay. You go ahead.
City has engaged with community members to co-create a vision for productive, meaningful, inclusive civic conversation. This vision supports physical and emotional safety for community members, staff, and council, as well as democracy for people of all ages, identities, lived experiences, and political perspectives. For more information about this visit and the community engagement processes, please visit the website on the screen. The city will enforce the rules of decorum found in the Boulder Revised Code, section 14B, including participants are required. Participants are required to speak using the name they are commonly known by, and individuals must display their full name before being allowed to speak online. Currently, only audio testimony is permitted online. No attendee shall disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of any council meeting in a manner that obstructs the business of the meeting. This also includes failing to obey the lawful order of the presiding officer to leave the meeting room or during the rest of the council. Only one person at a time at the podium, unless an accommodation is required. All remarks and testimony shall be limited to matters related to city business. No standing in or otherwise blocking the aisle in violation of the fire code or in any way that obstructs the vision or audio of other audience members. No signs or flags shall be permitted in council chambers except for one sign held by a person measuring no more than 11 by 17 inches, which is held no higher than the person's face. No participant shall make threats or use other forms of intimidation against any person. We ask that you not affix items to the podium or dais or walls or other surfaces of the chamber. Signs, flags, or other items used to communicate must be held by one person on display. Obscenity, other epithets based on race, gender, or religion, and other speech behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the meeting will not be tolerated. In-person participants are asked to refrain from expressing support or disagreement verbally or with sound, such as applause or snapping with the exception of declaration. Traditionally, support is shown through American Sign Language applause. Our first member of the public society has Van Burgess.
Great, feel free to come up, if you can make some space so that, the camera can catch her. If you can come around to over here. Yeah, and then just, if you can project your voice so that the camera puts you. And I'll give you a time, but if you're running out of time. You ready? Yeah, sure.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jan Burton. I'm an art supporter, advocate, and I was an organizer of 2A. Which passed by 75% of the voters in 2020. But tonight I'm speaking as a taxpayer and as myself individually. I'd like to thank all of you for your service, and I'd like to thank the staff for all the work on behalf of the community. First, I'm a keen observer of the city of Boulder budget and process. City budget staff has been giving details of departmental budgets to several of the commissions and boards across the city, including the Open Space Board of Trustees. This transparency and open discussion is important to the community, taxpayers, and users of city services. The Open Space Board, because they had that time to have a discussion with staff and themselves, sent a resolution to council asking for more transparency with regards to allocations, which seems to be growing exponentially while open space budget itself is flat. We also have allocations in the arts budget, so it's something to pay attention to. The remit for the Arts Commission is somewhat different, yes. But you still have responsibility for making recommendations to council with respect to annual appropriations for the arts. The fact that the city budget staff isn't sharing the full details of the 2026 budget with the Arts Commission is a concern. I would encourage the commission to push staff to be more transparent, and again, it's not the art staff, it's the budget staff. Much sooner. Much sooner. The conversation needs to be happening now. Secondly, Boulder's general fund should support the city of Boulder arts staff and overhead allocations. The 2A dedicated fund should be supporting the activities spelled out in the ballot measure. Direct and grant funding for arts and cultural nonprofits, professional artists, arts education, venues and workspaces, public art, and multicultural programs. The community voted for that. And they also weighed in with their highest priority in the blueprint poll, with 93% saying that increased support for nonprofit arts and cultural organizations was their highest priority. Third, many leaders in the community have now realized the significant economic contribution which can come from the Sundance Film Festival at a time when sales tax revenues have flattened. But I urge you to enforce that message for all of the arts, not just Sundance. When council members are prioritizing economic vitality now, they must see the arts as a valuable economic driver. In summary, the city of Boulder should provide you and the community the details of the 2026 budget as soon as possible and encourage a robust discussion. They should pay for city staff within the general fund, and 2A dedicated dollars should go to the arts community to achieve better outcomes and better economic guidance. Your advocacy will help our arts organizations, our residents, and the broader community. Thank you again for your service.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions about that? We do have time on the agenda that we're gonna be hearing from arts and culture staff on the questions that you've raised, kind of the process, right? So I'm sure there will be some conversation with it. So thank you. Thanks. And I don't think there was anything else signed up. Great. Okay, moving on to commission business, budget process. Speaking of.
So, let me stand up. Well, while you were talking, I was able to build this PowerPoint thing. This is from, we prepared this in advance. So, just very briefly, we wanted to give an overview of the 2026 budget process. to address some questions and just make it very clear and open, and I'll talk about the, oh my goodness. Apologies for that. So, a few things. So we have followed, as in the last 11 years, to my knowledge, the budget development process that has been developed by the city's overall budget office, right? So we're all following the same budget development process that the city of Boulder guides us to do. So we're all in like lockstep with all of our colleagues. And so something that I think a question that has come up is if the Arts Commission is able to give input before the city managers, and our staff recommendation for the budget is live. And the challenge is that we have to wait and follow our city processes to talk about, for the Arts Commission, for anybody in the public to talk about the city budget. So essentially, the city manager's budget is also our staff budget. Like there's not actually right now a lot for us to talk about. Even internally, we're like digging through and talking through all of these elements, right? So the normal process, in which I've put up here, and I will email to all of you too, and if you're watching from home, it'll be in the in our minutes, or it's also just online, that we release we as in the city staff, release the city manager's budget. It's a proposed budget, and it goes to city council on August 29th. So we have actually asked to do a presentation to Arts Commission on August 27th with the proposed city manager's budget, with the full Office of Arts and Culture, including within the broader like department to community vitality department, the Office of Arts and Culture budget. And that's including some of the concerns that have been brought forward, like fund balance and salary numbers, cost allocation, all kinds of different numbers, which which also I will remind you that since we are on a sales tax, these are all going to be estimates too. So we can estimate our fund balance for the estimate until the end of the year. We can estimate how much fund balance we have reserved. We might have rollover, but we'll have our reserve, but a lot of it is also still pending because we're still getting in sales tax. Like we had to make an update 2 months ago because sales tax has gone down pretty substantially. So it's a live thing as we go through time. And then once this is all released, there's a few different points for the public to give the direct input and feedback, both to the Arts Commission, but also to through the city processes to the city council. So they're the ones that are going to be having study sessions and talking through the budget until they get to October, whenever they will, and also in October. So through like the end of August through October is when there'll be like public discussion about the big broad city budget, which includes our Office of Arts and Culture. So does that make sense to everyone? Yeah.
Lauren, I might add,
Please.
this 2026 budget is really tied to the planning process for this upcoming fiscal year. And that's similar to last year to phase one where the planning process led to our budget building for essentially a new fund. So in future years, as we get our base budget for the movement process for this year's 2026 budget, there will be conversations, check-ins prior to staff building the budget that we submit to the city manager's office to then have them consider at the city executive level to build that budget. So this year has been a little bit different than how we would envision it for future years, because the budget proposal was staff to build and based on the blueprint process, which you all have that involved with. So just wanted to add that caveat in there. In case our other commissions have had a chance to get a preview of what staff has been building. Your preview of what staff has built is that.
Also have a good update in a little bit. Thank you.
And, just because I know it was mentioned in Jan's comments, can you speak to, the difference between this commission and the open space? Because I think there was another element about why they.
So open space does have some,
People hard to do.
oh, with the air
Is
conditioning.
the air conditioning on? I don't know. how
I was asking for some additional information because Jan had brought up the open space commission. And my understanding is there's some fundamental differences that play into why they got more information and different timing of this here, so. what-
Thank you. Yeah, totally. So, OSMP, from what I understand, has also different and stronger fiduciary impact on their budget. So the Arts Commission, as we're gonna see tonight, has some within the city code, like within city law. You are advisory for the most part, and then you are advising on the distribution of the grants, the grant funding. But the OSMP has a broader scope of what they are really obliged to do in their budgeting process too. So we're starting also this evening, the discussion of the grant budget for all of you to weigh in on, so. Which would be great.
And then I guess my other question for Chris is, you know, we always as commissioners have the option to go to a city council member in our individual capacity. And is that something that's just gonna be talking to a brick wall if we don't have the budget numbers to be reflecting on them? Or is it something that might be worth our time to voice with ranking prioritization?
But I'm gonna remain agnostic on how you
Sure.
interact as an individual.
Yes.
Council has not yet seen the book, so it's still, sausage is still being made. We just spent many days this week in, meetings with city about this thing, executive budgets. They're making all their decisions tomorrow, so the city and then release it. So we're all kind of in that, I don't know what it's either, right? So, it's this iterative process, and we want to be able to check in with our advisory commissions along the way as we're working to help influence how that sausage is going to get made. We're just not at a point yet where, we actually know what it is, and council's gonna be at the same space. One thing that we could also do, our budget, our whole entire city budget process has changed significantly in the past several years. You might remember a few years ago, there was a budget book, big PDF, and every department had a few pages to talk about their different programs and their budgets, it was all in a physical document. And now we've moved over to the OpenGov format, which allows for folks to have a lot more access to a lot more information, but it's so much information that it's actually not as easy to digest as 50-page budget book might have been. So we could spend some time once it's released, we can spend a little bit of time for us in this meeting, actually physically diving into the OpenGov platform in the arts and culture, so that folks can see in real time in the meeting how they can find this information specifically to funds, because that will be available. It's just, there's so much information.
Yeah.
It's hard to find.
I think that might be helpful. Me.
Sure.
So, Carolyn and Lauren, so they're get a presentation on the 27th.
Yeah.
And then it's presented at the city council on the 29th.
Yeah.
Is this commission's feedback and is the public feedback at the meeting that get represented at the meeting on the 29th?
I would have to think about how that gets through. But there's, like I said, there's multiple steps for the public to interact with the city council between that August 29th and like up to the. So I think if we, I have to ask how we send forward information. I imagine that like individuals wanting to interact with city council would be through email or hotline or like directly with city council.
But we as a commission don't have a unified voice in this process.
To respond.
We will, so at the September meeting, we will know exactly what the budget proposal is going to council for their October city. So at that meeting, we would love to have a formal recommendation from the commission in support of or with feedback that we will then pass on to council. The meeting packet. We'll do the same thing with all of our other commissions that have advisory roles, recommending a budget for each of the.
Sorry, I'm imagining. The August 29th is a study session. And so that's, staff presentation discussion, the October meetings of the public hearing. Acts. Council actually gives them, so that's that. At the 29th, there's not an interaction at the time, it's staff presenting and council.
So after that August study session, that's when, as an individual, council will see the proposed budget. They have between the August study session and the October meeting to have their deliberations, with each other, meetings to, make adjustments.
Chris, I think there's obviously a lot of interest in the community about the direct relationship between the two-way money and the arts commission and arts budget. So will that be transparent? What is projected for two-way funds coming in and how that translates to the funds that are going in the arts? Can that be transparent to all of us in this review?
Before you answer, I would give you some feedback from our mind that it's hardly clear from the revenue with our city. All right, so maybe you can, what's up?
Thank you.
So, Elliot Levante, our senior manager of business services, is our expert on all of our dedicated funds, and he is conveniently on vacation right now. And so I don't want to volunteer for exactly how the format is going to play out, but we've heard the feedback from both commissioners and community on how the two-way monies are presented in both our budget presentations for commissions and also just the platform. So we'll make sure that we have taken that feedback into account as we come back to you all with more information.
Anybody else?
Yes, our intent certainly is to not try to present things in a way that is not easy to understand where the two items of it.
I think if I could, I think that we are, we and the community are just looking at for transparency, on the budget, and we'd like to have, I think we want to have a unified voice. Both as a commission with the community's input on the budget.
Great.
Those are simple, anybody, please, different from that. Things like this.
Thank you. Anything else from you?
No, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Matters from commissioners, we have some time to do our liaison updates. We all have new liaison groups. I can say for myself, I don't have an update from my organizations because I'm still working on scheduling and meeting with people and so I'm sure I'll have a lot to say at the next meeting.
I also have not been fully on the ball with meeting everybody yet, but I did get to go on a Streetwise Arts mural tour a couple of weeks ago. And what a fun morning. I learned so much about Boulder, so much about art that I walk past every day. Yeah, I highly recommend it. 2 thumbs up. Been to a Yelp review or a TripAdvisor review, but good. It was fantastic. I learned, I mean, now I've forgotten it all, which is like, but for like an hour and a half afterwards, I knew a bunch of new stuff, and the retention is not fault of it.
I had a bunch of great email communications with my liaisons. I emailed everybody together and introduced myself and asked them to send me updates and add me to their newsletters and just some quick updates. Sandra, they're having their 2nd annual Friendship Festival. That's September 6th to 7 in Louisville. They've been really doing a lot of concerts this August, this summer, sorry, not August, in Boulder County. It has been very well received. Streetwise is fundraising now for the September Mural Festival. Boulder Ballet has on the 13th to 15th, they have a adult somatic workshop. And on September 12th, they have a full circle open rehearsal. And September 13th is their season opener, Chautauqua. With the new choreography, so I'll be attending that. With some other friends, and October 25th and 26th is the Dancer's Choice at the Dairy Arts Center. Orlando sent a great update to Lauren and me, except that to Ellie to add it to packet next month. But I think what really stood out is they are really at a high for enrollment. And with the students coming in, they've reached almost 120,000 students annually, just based on the weight that they do. Amazing. They've opened a new recording studio in April. That's not yet open to the public. It's just really for the students, but they're hoping by 2026 it'll be open to others. I did make the introduction to the Orlando and Bruce, who's another liaison, in the hopes that they can connect, and it seems like they've already been having a conversation. Which is a good segue to Roots. Their music festival is in October, and it's going to be super exciting. It is one night though, does coincide with the John Summit night at Bolton Field, so that's Saturday night, but they have tons of good programming Friday, Saturday, Sunday, during the night and during the day. They had two big brainstorming sessions. I was at one of them. Some great ideas. They were really able to articulate the benefit that it's gonna be to the economy, given the festival. And I'm hosting a fundraiser for the festival at my home on September 12th. The whole groups and music festival and to help them raise money to help them continue this music festival in the years to come. And the other, it's not liaison, but just JLF related. I don't know, I was connected to them to somebody at CU, and I've been talking to them, connecting them to potential donors, because one of the things that's happened is post-COVID, they've just not seen the comeback in audience or funding, and it's been, it's been challenging for them, and so we were just talking about how to get more younger audiences and to bring more diversity, and so I connected them with a bunch of potential speakers and donors, and thanks to the BBSD president of the board, Nicole Rajpal, they got a connection to the community person at BBSD, and they're too late for this year, but hopefully next year they'll be able to partner with BBSD to do some program in schools or whatever. So that was a really good connection. And Cindy and I and Lauren met about Boulder Arts Week, which has become a personal passion project of mine. And so as you all reach out to your liaisons, just remind them that Boulder Arts Week is coming, and to please start thinking about programming and what they might want to participate in. It doesn't have to be free, they can charge for it, but just remind them, and also remind them that we have very limited $500 scholarships, like not sponsorships for people if they want to sign up and apply for that. And we're hoping to raise another small amount from the community through private donations, so we can increase that $500 per person amount, make it a little bit more. So I'm reaching out. Thank you for listening. It is April 11th. I might be wrong. Yeah, April.
Warren?
I can forward the letter that I've been, like the email that I've been sending to my liaisons.
I just want to point out, we printed these out.
Oh, thank
We're
you.
not gonna, so there's a couple on
Yeah.
your desk, some updates from the ballet and Orlando. We wouldn't put them into that packet, but we can send anybody the updates with the,
Thank you.
and the for ballet.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I can share some updates from a couple of my new appointed organizations. Eco Arts, I didn't know a whole lot about. It sounds like has some really strong partnerships. In some underserved neighborhoods in Boulder, San Lorenzo, Boulder Farm, Home Park in particular, and that they have been working through the fears around ice deforestation in that area. It also sounds like Eco Arts has been affected by NEA fund changes, and some grants that they're not able to apply for anymore. It's unfortunate. Got some updates from Nick from town, learned a little bit more about them. Being a very, large organization, And having a larger annual budget, but really they've worked to break even just about every year and haven't been able to do that the last few years. So they are really pushing for transparency around 2A dollars, because it does feel like, allocating as much of that money as possible to organizations would have a big impact on them. They are excited about Sundance and are making really great connections, with Sundance. I'm meeting with Groundworks Lab on Monday, so I'll hopefully have some more updates from them. Got some info from New Local. This really sweet program on Sundays where it sounds like it's free art and music on the lawn, a partnership with Parlando. Also the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company does free theater and improv storytelling workshops. So that's happening every Sunday outside on Pearl from 10 to 12. They did their 6th public call for work and had 200 applicants, which was really big for them. And then it also sounds like August 21st is another big event coming up for them called Draw Downtown Boulder Arts Walk, which is a partnership with a bunch of restaurants, galleries, and now probably along Pearl Streets. And then Frequent Flyers Productions is in the middle of their aerial dance festival, which is their big 2-week aerialists from all over the country fly in to take workshops to teach, and then shows this weekend, and I'll be going to the show on Friday.
I reached out to all my liaison organization. I shared with them the agenda for today's meeting, told them about the upcoming changes to the grants, and encouraged them to review, either attend the meeting or review the video so they can send us feedback. In general, I wanted to acknowledge, did you all see that Andrea Gibson, Colorado Poet Laureate, passed away, and she introduced the Cultural Organization Summit in 2023. And she just had everyone make tears. She's just a really beautiful poet. So I just wanted to acknowledge that she has it. There's a good New York Times article about her work. I attended at the end of June the Experience in Public Art lecture with Molly D'Ambriella. Notice on the public art program, but there is another Experiments in Public Art lecture coming up tomorrow night. It's a 2-part series tomorrow night and Saturday. Fantastic artist, so please go. It's at the Boulder Library. I talked to Flatirons Community Orchestra. They are so excited by this grant. They have it's an opportunity for local artists to perform orchestral works and in a supportive environment. They are over capacity with interest. I think I sent all of you hopefully all got that. But they're very excited by the grant, and they are already finding ways to really expand their capacity. They did express some challenges with venues, so Cindy connected with them for filling out the venue form. They have a concert coming up on August 9th at 4 o'clock at the Mountain View United Methodist Church. Had coffee with Boulder showing up for racial justice. They as well are excited by the grant. They felt the grant process is a little more extensive than other grants. And both organizations gave you a big shout out how engaging you were and responsive. So I think we hear that across the board on how the transparency and this responding. So shout out to you too. They have Boulder showing up for racial justice. They have a movie at the Boulder Public Library this Saturday, Borderland, and the conversation that follows. Colorado Music Festival, their final performances are going on this weekend. Aller Fest, they'll have their annual house concerts and preview for 2026 on October 19th. And if you all have not been to one of these, I really recommend it. Their artistic director is brilliant, and just to see music and that type of intimate form is great. Sorry. On my second page, but also being looked at. We are, as I think you know this, we finished the programming, they finished the programming phase, the architectural design. They're currently working on the concept design, so that's looking at space layouts for both the building and the site. And they'll be embarking on a neighborhood roadshow, series of community gatherings in North Boulder neighborhoods, including Boulder Meadows, Ponderosa, Dakota Ridge, Holiday, Armory, and Wonder Lakes, to really show what's going on. and answer questions. So, I think the state of the arts from my pulse of these is very vibrant, and from what our last year too, there's a lot going on. Exciting.
Jeffrey, anything from you, or?
Yes, I've reached out. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I've reached out to all of my new liaisons. There were only two that I wasn't familiar with. I'm familiar with them, but don't know their programming well enough. And I've been taking in a lot of performances just to escape the world, and I've been seeing about 4 or 5 things per week over just the last 3 weeks. Though none of them are my current liaisons. But there's again, like everyone else is saying, there's lots of vibrancy, there's lots going on, and there's lots of escapism if you know how to and when to seek it out.
And I did mean to mention that the Boulder Opera this weekend at the band shell in the park has performances on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday is 7 o'clock and Sunday is a matinee, I think it's at 2. So I'm gonna go check that out. It should be a really cool event out in the open air. So.
Yeah,
thank
we're
you,
heading towards
everybody.
we're heading towards the end of the season for Colorado Music Festival. We're seeing the Mahler 9 on Sunday. Colorado Shakespeare Festival's got about 2 more weeks left. Central City Opera closes, I think, this Sunday also, and we made it up there this past weekend, and just really fantastic productions.
Awesome, thank you. All right, and any updates on commission work items? These are the small committees that we're working on outside of these meetings.
I'll tease that I think we'll have an update next.
Yeah, I think the same for us too.
Yeah, Caroline, I responded to your item that you'd sent across to me, and I don't have any edits, so I think when we're able to share with the commissioners, I like the fact that within each of the categories, when we're talking about coaching on building capacity and community engagement and marketing and board development, there's basically a question with each one of those categories that a commissioner would be potentially comfortable asking rather than going through all of them. And so I thought it was a really great format. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with everyone. So congrats on compiling
I will
that.
get that to Lauren then and have her send it out.
Perfect.
Thank you. So you guys can look for that. That'll just be a kind of a guide or a template to help have some conversations and get more information shared with your organizations. Cool. All right, Sarah, we're going into grants programs. Oh, I just skipped right over it. Boulder Arts Blueprint. Who cares about that, right?
I gotta set it up to hand it off. I'm not gonna stand up, that was a fail. My computer, so. All right. Well, everyone, we wanted to give you an update on the Boulder Arts Blueprint before, and especially before Sarah gets into the step 1 of the grants program, because you should be able to see how some of it all feeds into each other. I'm gonna go through these very, very quickly, but I realize I should give like a very high level, what is the who, what, just so you have this like framework in your mind. So the blueprint is a framework to support the growth and vibrancy of our creative landscape. We're going to be establishing a citywide vision for our office, for all departments, and ideally for the arts community and arts leaders. We're aligning to a lot of city guiding documents, which you'll see shortly, but primarily the sustainability, equity, resilience framework, but also the strategic plan and city council priorities and strategic plan again, and the comp plan. We also are working next to the comp plan to both inform their policies and make sure that we're reflecting their policies and their changes while they're working on the comprehensive plan update. Obviously, ensuring our responsible stewardship of the tax. And then this is, as you'll see it now, it is leading into guiding us into programs, into funding, into policy, into how we are encouraging the arts community, encouraging other departments, right? I think you all know this, but it's us with some consultants, I've called them the cats lovingly, PSP and Puma. And for the second part, it'll just be PSP, we're continuing with them, and then obviously also working with other departments to be sure that we're like collaborating in the right ways. We're sort of ending phase one right now, which I'll talk about, and then phase two will go through quarter one of 2026. And this blueprint and these summaries and this information that you'll see both from me and from the grant program, ideas and recommendations are coming from a whole lot of engagement that happened in this phase one. So community voices, stakeholders, focus groups, benchmarking, best practices, an advisory committee, expert insights, and then also trying to work in how we can guiding and trying to work towards city guiding plans. What and why now? The planning horizon for our previous cultural plan was reached in 2024. And also simultaneously, the new tax was approved in 23, kicked in this year. We saw some challenges in our community from COVID, which we're seeing still, as you mentioned, like with BLF, for example, Rick. And then the arrival of Sundance. It's actually remarkable timing and overlapping with the comp plan. Our advisory committee, oh, the picture's a little fuzzy, but our advisory committee is excellent. It's a really broad range of from CU, local, small organizations, artists, individual artists, for-profits, architects, Boulder Arts Commissioners. And then before I get into this kind of the framework itself, I wanted to give you this little graph, which I found very helpful, and our little progress to date in phase one. So we had a discovery report, which covered a lot of benchmarking with 5 other cities, some very initial impressions, but also it was very like big landscape. We have a lot of research in this office, I'm very proud to say. So putting a lot of that together, and then extensive engagement, as I've mentioned, also integrating research from our office, like the Arts and Economic Prosperity Research. We developed a framework aligned to the SARE goals and have reviewed at least the grants program with the race equity tool, which will be taking different parts of it. A race equity tool is a tool we use at the city to like make sure that we're considering race whenever we're rolling out new programs. And actually Jill just did that with us for the Big Neighborhoods program too, right? So it's a really useful tool to help us think through decisions that we're making, but we do that with staff and sometimes community members. So we've gathered all of this content, we've put it in at least into a framework, and then the next piece is going to be building out like actually the firm goals, focus areas, etc. So I printed this out because this is our guiding document at the city of Boulder. These are the city's community agreed upon, like generational goals. So that's what Matt called it. I really like that way of saying it. These are long-term, very big, very broad generational goals that the community and the city of Boulder tries to work towards, right? This is the sustainable equity resilience. As you can imagine, safe and healthy and livable. But we also use these in our budgeting processes and our organizing processes. It's a helpful tool for all of us to be able to speak to each other through the city as a broad institution and to have clear, consistent goals with each other. And so you have it all here in case you'd like to see that. So what we have done in part is to take all of this content, all this feedback, and build it into how the arts can help us achieve these long-term goals. And there's sort of 2 elements to that. There's how the arts can help us achieve those, right? But there's also how can we help these elements in the arts community itself. So the first example, the arts can encourage inclusive public spaces, safer, healing public spaces, but we also want to have a safe, connected arts community. For example, the Arts Commission 2 years ago worked on this statement against harassment when somebody was being harassed hanging up signs for a trans event. So how do we both encourage this within other departments within the community. And then also make sure the arts community is feeling the safety that we are as an entity supporting the safety of the arts, right? And within each of these goals, we've considered these different pieces. These will be elaborated on the website. And I'll talk about that in a second, but this is essentially giving us, taking all of this content, I mean, all of this content, and putting it into different kind of chewable goals that are, let's admit they're visionary, but we still have, there's still a place for all of this, right? We can work on them directly. We can try to encourage other departments to work on them, or we can partner with other departments at the city, or we can like try to encourage these in the community with soft power or with funding or collaborations, right? This is another, these are the last of the SARE goals. There's 7, so certainly economic revival is one that I think we're going to be leaning into as we have Sundance come online, right? Encouraging tourism, business talent, creativity for the local workforce. And then also, how are we making sure the community knows how to talk about themselves as an economic driver? Like what Guy just said with Roots being able to show their impact in the economy. We've built tools for that, which I think you will. But we built tools so the arts community can help talk about their own work and their own impact on the local economy, right? I'm almost done, but I mean, feel free to ask if you have any questions. It's been a fascinating process, so. And then these are some themes from the community that we are going to be integrating directly with those SARE goals, we interpret as arts goals. But these are ones that came up very particularly that people are interested in us digging into, seeing how we can help in these different capacities. And I'm thinking like with these options, obviously it's a ton of things. It's a ton of opportunities. And so now we're going to get into prioritizing, having some of those difficult conversations of how we prioritize and what we put funding towards and what we put time and energy towards. These are not in any priority order. But this will be the next step, is to really start prioritizing like what we really can do. And you'll see these, certainly some of these come through in the grants program too, because of the timing. We are building the plan as we're applying it, right? The grants program, because of the timing of the budget, we took a lot of this content, built it into the recommendations for the grant program. So you're going to see things like accessibility, lifelong learning, climate adaptation, experimentation already built into the grant program because we're like now moving in this direction. And then Sarah has also been working with the CATS on tailoring it and looking at best practices and things. So we're a little bit ahead with the grants program because that's what we asked them to focus on in phase 1.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
From these themes, like none of them seem unusual. It seems like things that, you know, Boulder already does. Like, did something stand out and be like, oh my God, we could do that?
Oh my. The one I really enjoy, but I was kind of surprised that it came up so high, is the creative risk taking and experimentation. It came out very strongly. It's like the Boulder weird funkiness. I mean, our comprehensive plan too has a recommendation to try to infuse funkiness. It's a weird word for it, but infuse kind of like this Boulder weirdness. Yeah. And it came up really strongly. Like, I don't think that's out of character, and I don't think any of this is really surprising, right? But the way that we consider building it into the grant program in a way that we haven't before is, and it's really, I think, super fun, right? To think of like, how does government try to work towards making weird stuff like this, right? But for example, we're gonna do a mapping project in collaboration with the comprehensive planning team. They asked us to do this, so mission has been granted to put like marks on a map where if we kind of had temporary policies or kind of loosened policies, like for Sundance, hey, if you could have like some lighting temporary releases on these permitting for like 2 weeks in this time, you should do it here and here, and that would really support like a creative environment, right? Or could you work on like noise, or I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but they've asked us to dig into what might be helpful for the creative community to like allow for this in a permitting and policy and zoning way, which is really exciting. Yeah.
Is there a difference between the stuff and italics?
Thanks for asking. Yes, in a bit of a way, these other items came up. But as I sort of envision them, and this is something the consultants are gonna have to like help me work out, because it's not my forte, but smarter people than me. But the top ones are these sort of topics and items, and the bottom seem to me, to us, to be like principles for everything. So trying to work on affordability across the board, trying to work on diversity and equity and inclusion, right? So how do we make it a principled practice, like we use the race equity tool with the programs? That's a great example of how to do this with everything.
Right.
How we do that? I have to rely on the cats. for that.
And Jeffrey had his hand up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I had the exact same question about the font.
Great. Maria, did you want to add anything too, like, as we're going through this, with this to me?
The thing, this is a little bit tangent, but I like the way you presented it, I think. I think that if you look back on your previous slides, I thought that was really well done, the way you talked about that. Thank you, so I felt like that might be a stronger path.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, thank you. And then I'm putting this back up because this really helps me. I like a bright graphic. So the SARE framework are our shining North Stars. Bringing it all in, and this came from the cats too. Bringing it all in, and now we're gonna work towards this vision and towards priorities, which I think is gonna be really like a tough part, but I'm gonna work on everything, I wanna support everything. Goals, focus areas, priorities, and then actions. Oh, as I've been thinking about it in these like concentric circles, what our office can do, the funding we have, the capacity we have, the incredible staff we have to work on things. What we have in this department, what we have in other departments, how can we partner and encourage? And then what is in the broad community, right? And how can we encourage that and the connections and support what's happening? Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
are you?
I'm done. That's it. Phew.
Excellent.
Oh, sorry, I guess I should say, so next steps are also, I'm gonna be posting an executive summary of the phase one report online. So, and also we will be doing some tailored engagement around priorities and different focus areas. So we'll be reaching out for any of that, or if there's public events, I'll be sure to tell you about that. We're going to actually an event at San Lazaro next week. So like start doing some public engagement, which should be cool. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions before we transition to Sarah? Great. Sarah.
All right, we have a pretty packed agenda for the grants program today. First up, we have the arts education project decisions. As a reminder, the commission may approve all of the grants for the panel's recommendation, approve individual grants while submitting specific questions, or postpone approval of individual grants pending the answers to specific questions. Here we have the scores from the panel.
Can we go back for a second?
And we do have someone from speak with.
All right, anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the following organizations for the 2025 Arts Education Project grants: Skin Studio and Gallery, Orlando, Boulder Ballet, Boulder Philharmonic, Create Aya, Frequent Flyers, Colorado Shakespeare Festival, the Catamounts, Luda Cultura, and the Local.
Great. And discussion. Is there anybody who's at these meetings for the decision process from the commission? Who was that? Oh, yeah, you want to fill us in on it?
I think I talked a little bit about it last time, I'm seeing then we just had a follow-up. Just we had a, sorry, that was my point. We had a this was sort of a two-part process. Correct me if I'm wrong, I know this is how I'm remembering it. It's a two-part process. One was the preliminary scores and pretty robust discussion with through all the grants. And then second meeting, some of the panels went back and rescored just a bit, and so some of the feedback was, discussion changed some of their opinions a little bit, but not fully. And they all felt very confident in the ones that were being awarded the grants. So, again, I feel like the discussions of the panel are, they're really talking about the impact and, just a very thoughtful discussion, the quality of the grant writing, the quality of the program.
I would just add that the panel wish that they could fund more projects. That's more projects. There's some fun goals.
Any other discussion? All right, ready for a vote? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Now we have the recertification of one of the 2022-2025 general operating support grants from JLF Colorado. You can either approve this report, approve the report while submitting specific questions, postpone approval of the report pending answers to these questions, or not approve the report, and that would cancel the final payment.
Ready with the motion?
I make a motion.
As stated, I'm assuming. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I make a motion.
Okay,
Can we hear me?
the language is up on your screen.
Oh, I move that we approve the following report for the 2022-25 GOS grants for JLF Colorado.
Great discussion.
Big kudos to Lauren and to Sarah for being wonderfully quick and proactive. When I reached out to them and found out that they hadn't recertified and they had some leadership changes over there, they thought it had been done and it hadn't been done. And so they swept in and within 36 hours it was done. So thank you.
I just noticed in the report just how much the support was able to provide them in terms of staffing support and some new software, I guess. So I thought that was really encouraging and great. Glad to see they're continuing to succeed. Anybody else ready for a vote? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you.
All right. And then finally, for action items, we have some grant reports from 2024 awardees. You can approve all of these reports, approve individual reports while submitting specific questions, postpone approval of individual reports pending the answers to specific questions, or not approve the reports. Do you want me to step out of the database?
Yes.
The reports are from Dairy Arts Center, Roots Music Project Foundation, and Notice.
So if we can have a motion with this language just for the Dairy Arts Center. You guys out of the room. Someone would like to make that motion.
I've been doing for the grant report from the area.
A second, but I have a question.
Great, discussion.
They mentioned that they have, in the absence of the Creative Nations Managing Director, and they note who is managing the programs. Did they say further on, or does anybody know what the status of having that director position was?
I think they've actually created bios.
The report said that it was what kind of a stand-in director.
Oh, yeah. Mary Amber Martinez facilitating that.
I didn't see in the report. Sorry about that, but.
I know personally that they've got a number of people that have been long involved and have just kind of stepped in to do what they need to do to get them across the next to the next phase.
I didn't see it in the budget, but I did notice, and just kind of in the spirit of what we talked about last year, that they specifically said that the Dairy Art Center was serving as a fiscal sponsor, which is completely like well-used process and relationship. I just did not see on the budget if there was, if they were waiving the fee for that, or if there's a fee going to the dairy for that fiscal sponsorship administration. Do you happen to know, Jeffrey?
I don't know that level of the workings.
That would be, nothing that's gonna interrupt my vote, but just some information that would be nice to follow up.
Could you repeat the question, besides the new managing director, what was your question?
My question is whether they are paying the dairy fiscal sponsorship administration fee and how much that is.
And Sarah, I'm curious, is Create Aya now like a new organization that was formed out of Creative Nations? I think their application for arts education, they showed themselves as a first-time applicant, so. Yes. I was thinking back on conversations, I remember, like, there was desire for them to be submitting the application themselves as an entity. So I got 100,000 response, that organization, like the one to. Exactly, sustain itself, beyond the dairy.
Any other discussion?
I think we would all just appreciate just, maybe an update, I feel like this commission is supportive of that work. Correct me if I'm speaking for everybody, but I think we'd just like to know better what's going on with their director space and their plans for the future, so I don't know if they can invite them to come in or send us, response.
Yeah, I would love that. Great. All right, all in favor of this motion? Unanimous with Gaia. On the room, we can go get her.
Yes, and I will reach out to them with those questions and report back.
Great. Thank you. And we're ready to do a motion for the other two organizations, if someone would like to do that.
I move that we approve the grant reports for Roots Music Project and Lotus Theater. I'll second.
Discussion?
I think we should acknowledge great work that Lotus did, with having their NEA funding defunded, and the support of county commissioners and city council folks that attended the events to support.
And I'm just amazed at how much Roots has been able to really carry forward on their mission, and how many musicians, just seeing going through that process, what they reported on the extent of how far people got with their projects and their skills. And so I think it's really exciting that they're doing that. All right, ready for vote? All in favor? That's unanimous.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
We'll begin our preparations for the 2026 Cultural Grants Program by introducing some recommendations and then opening the floor for questions or input. From there, we'll continue gathering feedback and making adjustments through September, and the final version of the grant program will be brought to the commission for an official vote at the October retreat. Keep in mind that a lot of heart and research went into staff recommendations, which are based on community responses, the sustainability, equity, and resilience, or SARE goals, best practices from around the country, as well as our fellow funders in Colorado. We're hoping for feedback on the processes for and general structure of the grant program to determine if there are any red flags sooner rather than later in the process. And your feedback will inform our work as we start to address more of the details. I'll start with some suggested process improvements. Having gone through the cycle of our grants program now, there are a few changes I'd like to make as grants manager. Some are pretty cut and dry, but others are more complex and very interested in the discussion of one. First, I am recommending we add a very short pre-application to the portal process. I don't know specifically what these questions will be, but they will assess eligibility and probably purpose and scope. Having their answers as staff, we can let them know if their project would meet minimum eligibility requirements. I receive a lot of fully fleshed out applications that are ineligible, and that is a huge bummer for that applicant. The panel can also provide initial thoughts before they take the time to submit a full application. The review panel saw common themes like the need to have a clear goal and clear dates for projects. Essentially, this is intended to be an application strengthening communication without a whole lot of writing required. Other regional funders ask for a letter of intent, but this can be kind of vague and applicants don't really understand what is expected of them in a letter of intent. So this is more specific. I'll pause for feedback.
I liked this idea, and especially not having to have the full letter of intent, so that's a good direction.
Curious how the timing works, like how much time for that, so that, maybe you don't know.
Yeah, we would have to have a separate deadline for the pre-application and then the application. I don't have a timeline. Sketched out for this, yeah.
And really, I'm just thinking about how you keep.
And just to put it on the record, I did have that question that you already asked of like, well, how many people are we actually addressing with this? But if you are getting a lot of ineligible full applications, I'm really interested in saving people that work.
Yes, or applications that could really be strengthened with one tweak as to specificity in the filing process.
So, Sarah, is the plan that they will fill out this pre-application and then it would be evaluated by humans?
Yes, so I would like enough time between the pre-application and full application deadlines. Because if something comes to me and it's ineligible because, say, the project doesn't take place within the zip codes that we allow, I could then send that information back to them. They would have a chance to submit another pre-application that would be eligible. But after I do the eligibility check, as staff, we would not review for content whatsoever. That would go to the panel to have their thoughts.
I mean, I just encourage you to think of an AI way to help you with the pre-application, because you're gonna be spending a lot of time looking at pre-applications and evaluating that, so if they're, you know, Boulder being such a tech hub, if there's somebody willing to step in and help you go an AI tool, like to do the applications through, I think it would save you a lot of time and we'll be able to get back to applicants much quicker.
That is something that makes my job easier, so.
I'll keep an eye on that.
Any other thoughts on this in particular? Okay, so this I understand is going to be probably more controversial. For the record, I really respect reasons to not implement my recommendation. Nonetheless, here is my reasoning. The intent of the ability for applicants to respond to preliminary comments and scores was to bring applicants into the review process and have more transparency. It also allows applicants to clarify points that they didn't make clear in their initial application, in the hopes that their score would increase. I personally think both of these goals are noble, but as grants manager, I suggest we weigh the intention behind this step with the reality of its effects. I've heard feedback and frankly resentment that some applicants did not think the time it took to write a response was worth it. And not everyone had time to write a response, so there's also an equity issue there. While the reviewers appreciated the responses and discussed them in the panel meetings, very rarely did they feel these responses actually merited a change in score based on the rubric. For the most part, what was valuable and what composed the preliminary reviews was feedback for changes that could be implemented between grant rounds. This feedback would still be provided to the same results if the applicant response was taken out of the process. I'm sure there's thoughts about this recommendation, so I would pause to hear it now.
I disagree with eliminating that because we've had scenarios where a panelist will give a lower score and applicants wondering why they don't have a chance to address that. And I hear you saying that next time, but I think we should keep it that maybe there's a way to streamline it, saying 3 bullet points, so 3 sentences address this. We don't have to say the whole other meeting.
Yeah, just specific questions for the applicant. I'll also note that I definitely would keep, if this was implemented, the panel meeting and the ability to rescore. Because I think a lot of valuable discussion does come out at the panel meeting. And it can be pointed out that, oh, I think you misinterpreted this, or you missed this point of the application when you read it. But yes, that is another option.
Yeah, this was the point that was most questionable to me also, and the 2 points that come up for me is curiosity around, the differences between how the commission changed our votes, because I feel like we had big changes in our votes that came out of the one pagers. And maybe that did not happen with your committee. And so I wonder if that's part of it. And then I'm curious about the resentments and if that's like a hiring and training process for the committee, or if this is the best avenue to address that. So maybe some feedback on that point first.
I mean, I think it's still unclear to the applicant how much their response sways the panel. Often they were essentially rewriting their application in the response with an entirely different project, so that put the panel in a difficult position.
So, Sarah, where in the process, because I've never been through this process with the panel, looking at one thing, so they review it, then where in the process do the applicants have this opportunity to send a letter? Is it, are they like, oh, this, does the panel say, I have a question, and they go back, and the applicant respond from this, is that what's happening?
Yes.
And is that happening because it's a very close score? Like between getting it and not getting it, or is it just, it doesn't matter? Like, even if you're not likely to get it at all, I still want her.
Yes, so even if the application is not necessarily a strong one, they still have the opportunity to provide a response.
That seems like a huge. I mean, I think it's huge waste of time as a nonprofit. If I'm not gonna get it anyway, like, why would I submit a letter being like, this is why I should get it? I'm not gonna get it.
And that's where the resentment came from.
Oh.
I can speak to my experience as commissioner reviewing is that. Well, first of all, we had a benchmark that if you gave a low enough score, you had to give a reason, and then those were usually. A lot of times framed in questions or like areas for improvement, or I could give you more points if. And so then those responses were kind of collected by the grant program manager and sent out to the applicants. For me, I felt it was really, really useful, particularly for newer applicants who just did miss sections or did miss ways that I was more likely to give points. Because we all have our subjective ways that we're reading the rubric. And if I felt like they didn't really address an area, it was an opportunity for me to be like, no, really here's how you can get some more points if you just explain this part. Or come up with a plan now about how you're gonna do the feedback session. Like you didn't really spell it out, give that some more thought. But I'm also, I'm like, hearing the resentment is worrisome for sure.
And Sarah, you host a bunch of grant writing. Like a bunch of like workshops sort of things, like how do you write a grant for?
Yeah, we're gonna do several this year. We have one in August. We also have the grant writing fund, so people can apply to hire a grant writer.
So that should eliminate, I mean, this has been going on for a while. It's not a good thing where you're hosting these events.
I mean, I can't speak super long ago because I just started a year ago, but I think there is grant writing workshops.
There has, so like organizations have this opportunity to understand the process. Like, I'm just thinking that I feel like some of this is just error on the part of the applicants, like they are not filling out something correctly, they're not filling out something to the best of their capacity. They're sending in maybe an application that they're not happy with, and they're viewing this as an opportunity to do it. But I don't think we should be wasting their time if they're not gonna get it anyway. I think we have a cutoff score, and then we go back to those people, ask for clarification then, if there's something that's gonna push them one way or the other. But let's not go back to everybody all the way down the list, If somebody's number 10 and you're gonna put it off at 10, and it's gonna determine whether, or at 11, and it's gonna determine whether they go to 10 or stay at 11, then I think it's good. But if they're gonna stay at 11, why?
I will say, 90 to 95% of the submissions we get are submitted like hours before the deadline. And so I think knowing that they have this opportunity to write a response is incorporated into how they write grants as well.
Right, so they're not filling it out as fast as they can, because they couldn't given this opportunity with parents.
And having,
Jill, sorry, Jeffrey's had his hand up for a while. You're on.
you know, that's fine. I echo Caroline and Marie, 100%, although I probably disagree with the elimination of this even more vehemently. I explained to the panel this too, that I often would score things low on the first round and would consistently and make sure that the questions were consistent across the group of candidates, that I was asking questions that were geared to, you know, understand what the reach is and how the marketing plan looked like, and what's the anticipatory what's the anticipated engagement. And I was doing that across the board to basically make better applications for all of the folks that were filling them out in a consistent manner, making sure that we weren't leaving folks out. At the same time, on the second round, there were some that stayed the same as far as the scoring goes. Not once did the score go down, but a majority of the time, for me, a score went up. And making sure that each of the applicants do have the opportunity to reply with questions, because they are getting questions from, you know, 5, 6 of us, and they're going to be different questions. So even if they score very high at the beginning, I think it's important that they have the chance to respond, because they're going to get different feedback from different panelists.
Oh, Jill, you first and then me.
yeah, as a past applicant, I can see both sides to this. I have valued the opportunity to respond to questions, provide clarity. It is a challenge when you're given 300 characters to respond to, like, answer a question in a grant application. So sometimes the space that you have to even articulate the program isn't allowed for. And so then when the panel is able to ask questions, I think that there's that opportunity to be able to elaborate in ways that you weren't originally given. So if it does get eliminated, I would ask that we take the time to just make sure that there's the space to answer all the things that we want to know about it. So that there's that clarity in place, even if the application starts to feel long. But like, I think that we can be really clear about, you know, what do we mean by goals? What do we want to see from these answers, so that it's clear from the beginning? And in workshops, you know, allow for the opportunity for the applicants to learn, you know, to understand how to fill it out kind of from the beginning. But yeah, I think that's just one piece that's always a challenge. I also think that the process is pretty cumbersome. So sometimes then having to go back and try to fit an answer to all these questions into a single page is in itself a challenge too. Yeah, I feel like I had one more thought about it. And we'll come back to it.
In the interest of time, I suggest maybe after a few minutes moving to the next one, because we aren't going to come to a decision today, and I can incorporate your feedback. For example, maybe making it a very short questionnaire instead of a one pager. I can come back next month to all of the different potentially
The one additional point that I have is, to me, it's an equity issue in terms of organizations that have professional grant writers and experience, as well as organizations that do not have English as a first language speakers. And like, to me, it provides a more robust opportunity for them to get even plain grant.
Right, and organizations that have a large enough budget to afford professional grant.
Correct, yeah.
I know,
And then
I haven't said anything. And I feel both ways about this too. I wonder though, because I'm thinking about some of the questions that I remember seeing, like people, like we all have sort of our themes. Someone was always like, well, how many people are you gonna reach? How many people are you gonna reach? Which is such a legitimate question. And that, like, some of those questions, maybe we can identify and they can just be very short answers in the grant.
Yes.
So that you don't have to like trick you into, oh, whoops, you didn't tell us how many.
Thank you.
There's a lot of that with evaluation, but there's definitely reviews. Okay, moving on, and thank you, for your recommendations there. Moving on to work samples, I recommend that we add work samples to general operating support applications and more clearly encourage them for project grants. This would make it easier for applicants to demonstrate the work that they do, especially for Anglophons. The panel would review the samples for mission alignment and community impact, not quote unquote excellence, which traditionally has been loaded.
How will they upload?
That's a good question. It could be well, we already offer for them to put a website link, so it could be like social media, website link, PDF. I mean, there's also different art mediums, so different things make sense to do.
I'm in favor of this, as long as it doesn't drift into an expectation that people have. A work sample, because there are new organizations or new types of projects that just don't have them.
How would you limit? How much that some of that's happening like that?
In the past, I've managed grants where we limited it to 2 work samples, but that can definitely be turned up.
Oh, it's just don't want to spend like 6 hours, like, so do something like, no.
And this is more specifically to individual art grants or no?
We currently offer supplemental materials for our project grants, so I'm also suggesting that we do it for general operating support grants. So the panelists were kind of confused about, well, what is the work that you actually do, because some things don't translate to text that well. I recommend that the directions for scoring encouragement points on our rubric be further clarified. Additionally, I think this is an opportunity for us to include blueprint vision. While the blueprint is in progress, from the community engagement we've seen thus far, some themes are already emerging. Lauren referenced funkiness earlier, but also wanting to amplify the work of BIPOC, disabled and lower income artists, which is already the intent of encouragement points. So this is just kind of a technical point that we just spell out.
I definitely time with blueprint.
I liked the idea of being able to kind of come up with a list and.
Speaking of larger planning vision and goals, we currently ask applicants to speak to racial equity in the application. I think additional city topics like disability access and sustainability could be encouraged through our grants in a similar way. For one, just as current applications link to the commission's statement on cultural equity, the new applications could link to accessibility and sustainability self-assessments. I already have examples of these if anyone's curious what this might look like. But I would definitely push for our office to go through these assessments first, as an example. But I also realize that this could potentially make the application more onerous, so there are definitely other options, like we could incorporate them into requirements to be a bedrock organization, or we could put it in the encouragement one. So this could look like a lot of different things, but just trying to find a way to plug these topics into our applications. So.
I share your concern. It seems like we're adding more and more layers and complexity.
The grants panelists expressed disappointment that many new applicants could not be funded in competitive project grant cycles, given the higher award that would be for bedrock organizations that could support their projects. I recommend that they not be eligible for competitive grants in order to make the process more effective.
I've kind of struggled with that for my entire time on the commission. It's like state-run organizations get the GOS and then they get a bunch of projects.
So these are some changes that I'm going to implement because it's basically just more work for me, which I guess I love doing. But we've mentioned before how our website does not have great search filter capabilities. And so now to find out what you're eligible for, you have to go grant by grant.
So in lieu of better website capabilities, I would like to hire an artist to create a one-page eligibility guide designed by an artist. So, for example, I'm a business owner, where do I go? So, yeah. Inquiry form on the website, my proposed structure for the grant program is based on what I can glean about demand for our grants. For competitive grants, I can compare number of applications to those we're able to fund, but for non-competitive grants, it's a little less clear because in order to not waste people's time, I close the portal as soon as the funding runs out. So the only metric I have is how fast the funding runs out, but to get a better idea, and as a way for people to reach me, having an inquiry form where they can ask about a specific grant or the grant program in general. Gonna try it, no one reaches out to me, we can recess that later. Grant guidelines with the glossary of terms, this is to help both applicants and reviewers. As an example, there was some, lack of clarity as to what actually constitutes a collaborator, in the project. And also shortening the GOS Cultural Index Survey. We definitely still want to collect data for research and reporting purposes, but I'm asking for advice as to what is best practice that we actually will need and use in order to save applicants time and fix the rest. And then 2 cycles for as many grants as possible, extended timeline. Basically, for our non-competitive grants as it stands now, if someone hears about us for the first time and reaches out in May, I have to tell them, well, wait until next year because they're all gone. So if you aren't in the know to apply January 1st each year, it's very difficult to get that kind of first come, first served grants. Okay, fun part now.
Sorry, does it mean there's 2 panel, 2 meeting?
This is just administratively through that. Okay.
Yeah, just enough.
Yeah. Phase 1 of the blueprint, I did consider that with competitive grants, but knowing how much we pay the panel and wanting to be considerate of their time, I wanted to. So. Okay. Phase 1 of the blueprint provided recommendations on a budget and structure that is responsive to current community needs. Feedback from the blueprint engagement process clearly stated that current award amounts are too low, especially for the administrative hours needed to complete the application and required reporting. By increasing award amounts and consequently reducing the number of grants overall, the Boulder Arts Commission can simultaneously incentivize high-performing innovative institutions while providing more substantial grant amounts. However, we've also received feedback that we should fund as many organizations as possible and have less competitive grant cycles. So there's clearly a trade-off there. The question is, what is the main goal? Do we want to fund as many organizations as possible, or do we want to substantially fund and expect community outcomes?
There's a cyber conversation in the blueprint. And I think where the group was circling around, but this is not, it's just, conversation. Was to set a minimum baseline and then divide the money amongst the top tier organizations. So did I say it correctly?
Yeah,
Yes.
like some version of a percentages of breakdown or top and bottom tiers. I mean, there's certainly a bunch of other ways that also look at dividing funding in different areas. It actually might be helpful to show the budget breakdown to just give a general overview, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so skipping ahead,
Sorry.
uh,
I think I moved this slide, so I apologize.
I think I'm guessing what you're referring to, and this initial structure has competitive general operating support tiers, still based on annual revenue. However, I know Carrie Polizari has an equation where it's the award amount is the percentage of their budget with the cap and floor. Additionally, you can have tiers not based on revenue at all, but on organizational effectiveness. There's an example of that in San Francisco with metrics that I can get into later. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
To your original point about like this conflict between more organizations or more money, how much do you suspect having bedrock organizations will impact that like ability to actually be giving money out to more organizations?
It will. I think again, this is my best guess because I have no idea who will be considered a bedrock organization or what the requirements will be. So noting that I have no idea how many bedrock organizations we'll have. I think maybe estimate 10 less organizations would be funded than we currently.
And just everybody's familiar with the Bedrock organization. And
I'd like to know what defines that. That is another slide.
oh, sorry.
I guess they're all.
We went ahead.
Jump back and forth.
Yeah.
Should I go to that slide?
Yeah.
Okay. The initial blueprint analysis suggests that funding tiers for general operating support awards should incentivize impact rather than just budget or growth for its own sake. Using San Francisco as an example, additional questions could be added to the traditional general operating support application if an organization wants to be considered bedrock. These organizations would ostensibly demonstrate their participation in community engagement, collaborations, work with underserved communities, contributions to economic infrastructure, innovation, and or neighborhood activation. If we institute these bedrock grants, we'll need to obviously define what makes a bedrock organization. When we ran this question through the rapid response racial equity tool, many of the points on the screen came up. Some of these points also come from our community engagement and our desire to align with the city's broader goals. The details are obviously everything here, and we aren't quite there yet. So we would like to get the commission's initial take. And again, this will definitely be a work in progress. And then the other question is it a number of boxes you have to check?
Really heavy points in one box.
I was gonna say all of those. To hit all of those is very challenging. And some are totally, like some lend themselves better. Oh, can you go, what are the benefits to being, and why do I want to be a bedrock organization? Because I did see that there was a limit that I might not be able to apply for other grants as much. A bedrock organization, so why do I want to check on those boxes?
The higher grant award amount, essentially they'd be getting a general operating support award increased by 18% for increased costs, plus the equivalent of an arts education and community project grant.
Without having to write.
But there'd also be more responsibilities, or we would expect more outcomes from these types of organizations in return for the additional. Awesome.
And the feedback we heard during the blueprint on the statement that Sarah just said is, you tell us what you're looking for as far as the outcomes. Just tell us in advance, but don't just after the fact. Please be clear about this, Sarah.
No, I think that, as Cheryl said, nobody's gonna check all these boxes, but it's like going to get your social security card in this country. They're like, pick two from this box, like 2 pieces of ID and this or that, and then you sort of pick, something that makes you allows you to get your social security card. Like it has to be something like that, where like we pick 2 important things that are important for to this mission, and then one thing from another box and one thing from another box. So maybe they hit 4, but they have to hit 4 at least. And I think that makes it attainable to bedrock organizations and gives them a chance. And I think that a lot of these organizations, right, thinking of the bedrock organizations, they have like auditors, they financials are like auditors, so they have a lot of information and they can share with us. So like the finances and things like that will be able to pay for her, but like I'm sure measuring outcome. So the other software ways might be a big part of people and I think that's something, like you said, we just have to set that in advance with them, the information we will share, because they do have this information for sure. But I like this idea of a bedrock organization. Helps. I think it really helps those that are doing great work in the community. I think it rewards them. I think it gives them an opportunity to keep pushing. I do wonder though if there's some way somebody's gonna call and yell at me about this item, it's like to put in something in the grant that. You know how we have like 1% goes towards public art, like is there something to say like a certain percentage of this grant money goes towards you helping another nonprofit, like doing a co-production with them, or like something else like that. Maybe it's 1%, I don't know, maybe it has to be more, if not more. But, you know, maybe it's like a few thousand and you commit to doing something with this nonprofit that has not received, potentially not received the grant because we changed the way that we do the grants. And it could be a good way to build just with collaboration too. And we could match them, like it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be good, you know, hey, you do, I don't know, X, Y, Z, are doing something around. Title I kids, like maybe you want to work with this theater company that did that, or like this orchestra that didn't get the funding this year. Like the way to come together. For my thoughts.
Jeff is good.
Do any of us think that any of our current GOS awardees are not committing and doing at least 3 or 4 minimum of these things as they're going through their daily work? And I feel like this would be backing up our existing organizations that have come to rely on this as almost a betrayal where we're moving the cheese because we got them to rally around the 2A and all of a sudden now we're changing the rules on it. And are we backing them up against the wall to qualify it? Instead of 3 or 4 of these things, now you have to do 5 or 6 of these things to even maintain what you've probably already budgeted for the following year. And is it sustainable to provide this level, this percentage of funding to an organization? And what's the minimum? Are they getting it for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? Because then the spigot is shut off, and are they able to continue the capacity and the work that they were doing once the funding either they don't qualify it for any longer or they don't receive it? I see where it could be transformative, but I could see where it could also be something that just runs its course within 2 or 3 years because they're not able to springboard to the next level.
I had a similar thought to Gaia, and that I understand the idea, we don't want the same organizations to feel like they're receiving all the funds through all of the grants. I will say that a project grant, the way that I've always seen it, is an opportunity to do something that maybe the organization isn't able to do with their general operating revenue. And so in applying for a project, they might be bringing in artists or doing a free shows or something like that for the community. And so those project funds, I guess I just don't see it as necessarily like supporting the general operating of that organization, but rather this like additional project. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of of the mind that like being able to apply for project grants, I still continues to benefit the community beyond that organization, if that makes sense. But if we go this route, I could see the potential for identifying a project in that organization's strategic plan that they want to execute that has partners or something like that, and a portion of that budget going towards, you know, that project so that, you know, they're able to highlight something that they want to happen.
Lauren, you brought up something about venue spaces.
Oh, just something from the blueprint research, and one of the, like, this is a recommendation from one of the blueprint research, and something they also considered was asking Bedrocks to offer venue space. Like, venue space is such an affordability in general, such a big challenge in the community. So to add to this list, I think is the venue spaces, but the other things, the sort of framework that we're looking at is one from San Francisco, and they have an MOU with it, or
They have a what?
an MOU, like a
Memorandum of understanding.
Thank you. The lawyers. I said that like I was hoping it would just slide by. Thank you. To ensure that whenever you're signing this, like we have agreements to, right? that, hey, as a Bedrock, as an anchor organization, an anchor institution, you will fulfill A, B, C, D, E beyond what you would normally be doing as a general operating support grant team. So we are setting higher expectations for those organizations and expecting that to happen over time.
You're not forcing them to take the money, right? Like, they don't have to. Like,
No,
that- They can be like, no, thank you, I just want to continue to apply for whatever it is. I don't want, but I don't want the equipment, I don't want the money, I'm paid, so. We'll have the.
Yeah.
Option. Do I know?
I would apply for the general operating support grants. Without. The different of what expectations, right? And the different, actually, I keep thinking Matt described this much better than I did last time, but, or that I'm about to. But that's to say that when you're weighing these two sides of, do we do more broad support? Are you supporting more broadly in the community? Are you, like, how are you thinking of how you're shipping funds, right? Are you trying to do something impactful and trying to very directly impact these things that are important by doing this? Or are you trying to support more broadly and create a different sense of community by like funding very broadly, but maybe not making a lot more impact? As much impact with like these bigger, or bigger impactful outcomes, right? Like this is an outcome-based focus. We're trying to get things to happen in a very specific way. How did I do? You wanna add to that? Oh, you. He said that.
Yes, certainly this was a starting point, these points to get the conversation going. Before as staff, we put a lot of resources, time, energy, et cetera, into creating a draft. Temperature check on the concept of a bedrock organization. In general.
I think, I'm interested in that. I'm curious about, it being based in San Francisco and how long their experience is, and like, if you could give us any feedback from how it has changed impacts for them.
I would imagine for the organization submitting a public review that, you know, the devil's in the detail, what does commitment mean? What does a living wage in Boulder mean? I mean, I just. So I think, what are we asking? Another layer of detail, that I think the organizations, there's someone who's more. I think as you know, what they are is. So, it needs another level of vetting.
San Francisco asked, or they scored based on mission alignment, creative partnerships, judiciary oversight, job creation, neighborhood activation. That could look really different in Boulder. But yes, I will do research as to what the impacts of moving to that system is.
I think it's interesting, but there's also potential for it to be used as widening, between the haves and have-nots, for the organizations, yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna win, right? There's always gonna be somebody who's gonna be mad, like that is the end game. You're gonna be, but I think as a group, we have to say, okay, well, there's always gonna be somebody who's upset. And we have to solve for that, but then also we have to solve for using this funding well, and if we are going to more outcome-based funding in general, like this seems to lend itself to that goal of going to more outcome-based, impact-based. That's the direction we're going in. This seems good, but we have to solve for nonprofits that will struggle and be unhappy, and I don't know how to solve for that. Not happen today, but it's something to think about, so they don't feel this like, yeah, I'm just out of the boat right now. Or I never have this way to get up that ladder. I mean, there's something that's kind of moved them on that ladder eventually to get to something.
The other thing that I'm considering, and I'm. Because it's so, office, it's still not sure how it will really work, but I'm wondering if this is just a place thing, like. the role of the commission and oversight of the funds onto these organizations and like bypassing all of our like very carefully thought out criteria for getting the money. Like we're saying here, we want bedrock organizations to go out and be supporting and partnering with other organizations. Does that bypass our oversight in some way?
When we
I
put
don't know
this,
that it does. I'm just wondering.
when we put this through the racial equity toolkit, that did come up, asking them to distribute the funds, they kind of answer to different people, and they can work with a more curatorial lens than the public interest lens.
Jeffrey.
I will look forward to the case studies from San Francisco specifically based on what this is and what's some of the success stories or challenges that have come out of that. On the surface, to me, it just seems exclusionary. And I'm trying to compare Boulder to San Francisco. We're a city of 100,000 people, but at the same time, I would bet that we have more arts organizations per capita than a city like San Francisco. I would suggest that we have more investment from the city and the taxpayers in the arts than San Francisco, if you're looking at the number of people per capita. Again, I don't want to leave people out, particularly those that have been relying on us for so long. And thinking about those organizations and how many people they employ and how many of those folks live in the city of Boulder, or at least within Boulder County. And how many folks that they're collaborating with within the city, and how has that impacted the vitality and economic vitality of the city, as well as just providing art for the residents.
To be completely transparent, when I put together again, very early draft form of the grant budget, I accounted so that the same number of small and mid-sized organizations could be funded that we currently fund. As Gaia mentioned, there's always going to be people who are unhappy. There would be less organizations funded. Specifically, those would be organizations with very large budgets that cannot show community outcomes.
Perfectly fair. Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarifying that. In other words, you're saying, hey, let's throw that a gauntlet and throw some impact in a couple organizations and see what that does. So again, I'll look forward to the case studies.
Where's mud, Sarah?
No,
Is our feedback helping?
gonna be fun. I think since we have 7:49, I can entertain some more feedback, but I'm also very reachable all of the time. Also, if the members of the public who are listening, you can certainly email me or our office or the commission.
And then what is the plan and what's our homework on this? How can we make the best use of whatever time we allocate at the next meeting? What's gonna help you the most?
I would certainly be interested if there are ideas from the commission about bedrock organizations.
Okay. Great.
Oh, I also wanted to know, lifelong learning, you may notice a new grant program name. Potentially, we're looking at no longer an arts education project grant, but an arts education grant that supports longer term programming. And what we received from the blueprint is that people want intergenerational programming and they want safe third spaces for young people. So we don't have the details yet, but that is something that we're thinking about developing, is arts education.
And is that related to, I saw some notes about the pipeline, education, the leadership pipeline?
Yes, we are proposing that would function better as a sponsorship scholarship than a grant.
Okay. So that's not listed. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So there's no, the arts education for, would turn into, broadly, multi-generational.
Yeah, especially maybe bringing in creative aging, programs that we've worked with. Yeah, I strongly against that. Not that I'm against creative aging, but I think this is our pipeline that I think we have to, and I think, schools are cutting arts programs. I think we need to advocate for arts and people.
100%. And kids in BDSE, children in BDSE. And it is so hard to continue with music programming, orchestra, arts, and these kids a little bit while we figure out the funding situation.
So I think we want to be creative, aging, to be someone else's students, blending.
Yeah, definitely trying to incorporate the community feedback about generational programming, but having that's some better funding for education programs.
We're gonna move on to the next topics. The only thing that I'm hearing also that might be helpful for people is beyond an executive level summary for those of us who want to dive into the report and see what the feedback was, like directly from the community and where all these ideas are coming from. Would that be helpful for people on the commission?
Oh, from the arts blueprint?
Yeah.
I might have to do, I'll have to look into that and talk with consultants too,
Oh, okay.
because their version that we have now is like a document for their advisory committee.
Okay.
But I can absolutely talk to them about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I think, sorry, before we move on, Sarah, if you remind, us all of the schedule of this process will go for rising the grants, and again, where the community can have their input.
Right, so wanting to get a bit more granular, hopefully each time, moving in a specific direction. There'll be proposals at the August, draft proposals at the August commission meeting, September commission meeting, and then trying to finalize it. We'll definitely finalize it.
so we really want to have some guidance for you on yay or nay on this idea of bedrocks by next month at the meeting.
Right, so that then we can actually start the really difficult work, which is what does that actually look like in practice? Additionally, I think in phase 2 of the blueprint, there's going to still be community outreach about this.
I think for the grants program, potentially, but it's gonna be focused more on like bigger priorities, public arts and dance. Or different priorities, I should say, just about the same priority, but public arts and dance venues and affordability with venues is more of the phase 2 work, really, because the Arts Commission is advisory to the grants budget, this is really now getting into where we are really testing. I think for your input, this is really excellent. Like, I really genuinely have thought of some of this stuff. It's great. So, we're gonna really be leaning on you for this to talk through the grants work, and anybody at home to please like send us your feedback and their commentary. It is like very granular for the general public to talk about this kind of stuff, so that's why we also kind of advice.
But certainly all of it was informed by thousands of people involved in the
Yeah.
phase 1 out.
Sarah, sorry to quickly pick on this. So if people, the community has feedback on this, these are probably organizations.
Mhm.
They contact you. You consolidate all that feedback for all of us.
Oh, definitely.
And then we can have a discussion around that. I just want to make sure that we're understanding what people in the community feel is the best to move forward as we talk about it.
Yeah, I can certainly keep track of who I have conversations with, who reaches out with that. Thanks.
Okay, noting that we have 5 minutes and we've got a public art program, which I'm assuming Matthew's gonna update us on.
So,
Or is,
Brendan's actually at home, he just wasn't feeling.
oh, I
today,
didn't know he was
so
online.
he's
Okay,
here.
great. Hi.
Thanks for
Hi,
joining.
everybody. I've been here the whole time. Great meeting.
This looks like a hostage.
Should I pull up the presentation? Are we ready or?
Yeah. go ahead.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. Right, so I have a presentation here for you all. This is the Gregory Canyon Creek project. It's a new 1% for Art project. We have, whoops, sorry about that. We have 1% of construction of the new Gregory Canyon Creek project. This is actually a project through the utilities here in Boulder. They're building a new water line along with Gregory Canyon Creek, and they are including 3 parklet areas as part of the construction of this project. So this is just to say that most utility projects, their projects have no finished public space. This is a different one that does have finished public space, so it does qualify for the 1% allocation of funding. So we would like to commission an artist to create unique, permanent, site-specific work for these 3 small parklets along Gregory Canyon Creek. We will include a call for entry for artists, and we have assembled an art selection panel, including a technical review committee. So here's kind of a map of where this project is taking place. It's above the hill, adjacent to Flatirons Elementary School and the Columbia Cemetery, and it kind of weaves its way through the neighborhood. Any questions about the location of the project?
Brendan, am I correct that the top of the map is pointing east?
The top of the map is pointing east, correct?
Okay, great, thank
Yep.
you.
All right, so our total budget for the art is $167,000. And again, this is from the capital fund for utilities. We're thinking about a potential call for one artist to do art in all 3 locations so that there is some cohesiveness there. The total contract budget will be around $150,000. We have an honorarium budget of up to $4,500 for 3 proposals, 4 panel stipends, totaling out at $2,000, and then the cost of the online call is $500, plus holding a bit back for contingency. So we'll kick off this project here in the next month or 2 with an orientation meeting. And our community selection panel includes Jill Katzenberger, our arts commissioner, Liz Kwan, our artist, Sarah Chestnut, our arts professional. She's a graphic designer and also lives in the neighborhood. Liza Getchis is a community member. Both of her sons went to Flatirons Elementary. And then Emily Boxenbaum, she's a community member as well and the art teacher at Flatirons Elementary School. Our technical review committee includes Kristen Kapatayas. She's the civic engineering senior project manager for the Gregory Canyon Creek. We have Angela Urego. She's the communication senior project manager for the project. Of course, Mark Garcia from Planning and Development Services. Kurt Bauer is from the Mile High Flood District, and Cassie Caslon is the landscape architect for the project. Any questions about the budget or the selection panel? Right. Any questions about the overall project or comments? All right.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I move that the Gregory Canyon Creek Public Art Selection Panel and project initiation be recommended to the city manager for approval.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. That was it?
That was it. And thanks to Maria for mentioning, yeah, tomorrow we have a Experiments in Public Art lecture series at the Canyon Auditorium at the Boulder Library. That starts at 7. And then we have another version of that lecture plus a panel discussion with 2 local textile artists on Saturday. That begins at 11:30 and the panel discussion begins at 1:30. So hope to see some of you there.
Feel better.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here, even though you feel bad. All right, any questions about the manager's memo?
Probably a lot.
But I'm sure all of that's gonna be part of the ongoing process. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can organize our thoughts and continue to discuss. Great. All right, well, let's adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah.
Is that
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Great, and
That's
Lauren
great.
reminded me that we do a feedback survey from some applicants, so I can also ask part of the questions for the next one we discuss.
Great.